Welcome into this Busted Open special, Legacy, the celebration of black men and black women in professional wrestling on this Black History Month, along with WWE Hall of Famer, two-time Olympian, and the world's strongest man, Mark Henry. I'm Jonathan Hood. Thanks so much for being with us for this very special show that we have for you. We have special guests coming up that we'll tell you about as we move forward. But Mark, how far we've come from performing in segregated crowds and cities to being on the card, main eventing. And it's so great. There was a time in our world in which you'd have the main card on those placards. They'd have right there in the storefront, and it'd have all the main characters, everyone that's wrestling. And then on the bottom, it would say, also Negroes and will also be featured on the bottom in small type. Boy,
Yeah.
how far we've come as far as the journey and the acceptance in professional wrestling.
Jonathan, we have come very, very far. And from the times where Virtual Small in 1916, 1917 to Jim Mitchell in 1933 through 1944s to coming into the modern eras of Bobo Brazil and Bearcat and Ernie Ladd and up until the Ron Simmons and JYDs of the world, to the evolution of the WWF and The Rock and myself and Booker T and guys. We've spanned a long, long time of African American excellence in pro wrestling, and the future is very, very bright. And if you haven't noticed, you can't watch a program without there being at least 5 to 10 African Americans on a feature program.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've come a very, very long way.
I just want you to think about where professional wrestling was when you and I were coming up. I'll give you the first one that I remember, first black man that I saw on TV. And I'm from Chicago, so I'm from the AWA, Vern Gagne's territory, in which I saw no African Americans on Vern's TV. None, zero. I want you to think about that. Not even as a preliminary, not someone that was in the middle of the card, zero in the AWA under Vern. So then there was the WWA that came out of Indianapolis that was owned by Dick the Bruiser and Wilbur Snyder. The first time I saw a black man wrestling on TV, Mark Henry, was Bobo Brazil. Houston Harris, his real name. But Bobo Brazil in the WWA, wrestling there for a long time. He's from Benton Harbor, Michigan. And then when you do more research, you find out he's from Little Rock, Arkansas, where he was born, which resonates with my family because my family's tree on both sides is from the great state of Arkansas. Razorbacks all the way through my family. So that resonated with my dad. We go to International Amphitheater in Chicago, 43rd and Halsted, the south side of Chicago. And my dad was there not to see Dick the Bruiser. He wasn't there to see the Crusher. Wasn't there to see Baron von Raschke or the Blackjacks. He was there to see Bobo. Because Bobo would be pretty much in the middle of the card, toward the top of the card, because he stood 6'6" and a legit 275. And he was just an amazing specimen of a man because he was built like a brick house. And he would take punishment, and he'd take punishment, and you could tell, he's like, no, I'll keep taking punishment. Not yet. I'll come up in a minute, but not yet. And he would take his punishment. And boy, when he had his comeback, boy, let me tell you something. There wasn't no bump and feed. It was just like it was him taking over the match after that. As a black man, as my dad is a black man, that made us proud because there was only one on the card, and it was Bobo.
And Bobo was like one of the unbelievable comebacks in pro wrestling history. The only person that I can remotely see in my mind's eye that could blow a comeback like Bobo was Ricky Steamboat.
Mm-hmm.
And like those two guys were very reminiscent of each other. If I'm going back in my mind and being from Texas, I had two around the same time, and Tiger Conway was incredible, and in Houston, and so was Iceman Kings Parson.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I mean, like I had those guys to see in Texas, and probably another 2 years later, uh, I had JYD or Big Daddy Ritter um, in Mid South Wrestling in Louisiana, and I was surrounded. I had Houston, I had Dallas, and I had Lafayette, Louisiana, and I was right in the middle of the triangle. And me and my grandmother was a wrestling fan. And I tell people all the time, just to put it in perspective, nobody in my family ever asked me for a WrestleMania ticket. Nobody watches wrestling in my family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they'll watch when I go to Beaumont or I get to Houston, and they just want to come see me. See how I'm doing, see if I brought the family on the road with me or that kind of thing. Not because they was like, hey, we're just gonna go watch wrestling. We love wrestling. Like
That's
nobody watches.
that's so great.
So, but my grandmother, man, we would get on the Greyhound bus
Mm-hmm.
and we would take that 4 hour drive to Dallas or the 3 hour drive to Houston. And it was an hour and a half. I always like going to Louisiana because of how short the trip was.
Right.
Like,
That's
I don't know if you've been on a Greyhound bus before,
and
but it
yeah.
ain't fun.
You had short trips, and the boys had a longer trip working for Watts.
Uh,
You
they,
had a
they were
shorter trip than the
driving that,
boys.
they were crisscrossing all over the place, 3, 4 hours every day.
Yeah.
But the real short trip was like 15, 20 minutes to Beaumont,
Hmm.
and every now and then we get in New York they would call them gypsy cabs, but in Texas we just get a cab, to Beaumont. My grandmother pay them $5 and they drop us off at the Beaumont Civic Center, and we would go in there, man. I'd be shaking, standing in line, and she'd be like, "Hold on to my purse, because I might lose track of you.
Right.
You don't want to get lost up here."
No, you don't,
So I'm
man.
holding on to her purse strap, and so I got to see wrestling a lot, and it was almost every weekend, every other weekend, we would go somewhere and watch wrestling. And
So,
here I am today, because of her.
and watching wrestling, just
Still
like
watching
still
wrestling.
watching wrestling, just like me, and just like the rest of us. So, to give our younger listeners an opportunity to know the first time that we saw a black wrestler, let's go back in time to, I believe this is the Sheik's territory in Detroit, big time wrestling, where after Bobo's wrestling, he's filled with sweat. He had a perm, man. It was look good, but it fell because he wrestled. So it
Yeah.
just so the hair fell, but he still looked good, and he was there. He spoke at ringside after his matchup.
I know I have the belt, and when any man have a belt, he have everyone shooting for the belt. So I know what I have to do. When I step into the ring, I guess guys like the Sheik, Butcher, and the German, and go on and go on. I know everyone is shooting for me. And Buzz, I know what I have to do. Just do my best. And I believe if I do my best, that's all I can do.
Bobo called him the German.
That's-
He didn't know his name, but he knew he was the German.
I,
He
I,
spoke eloquently. I love Bobo because his promos were eloquent. I loved it.
oh man, Bobo was something else. I got to sit and have a bunch of conversations with Mr. Lindsay, who was always in Washington D.C. and like for years and years, you see this old black man sitting outside the locker room, and everybody would go shake his hand and talk to him. And he was one of the guys that wrestled before Bobo.
Hmm.
And he used to tell us all the stories, give us all the dirt, who was good, who was bad, and who drew money. And oh, he ain't draw a dime. If it wasn't for Bobo Brazil, Freddie Blassie, he was like, Freddie Blassie couldn't hold my cup. If it wasn't for Bobo, Freddie Blassie wouldn't have been nobody.
Damn.
He was the man. And but Freddie
Oh man.
Blassie, man, he used to tell the stories about Bobo and how those arenas would um, the during that time it was segregated and all the black people would be upstairs.
Hmm.
And like you would by the middle of the match and Bobo was get just like you said, he just could take a ass whooping.
Yeah.
And the people would start to get angry and start to move down into the lower bowl.
Hmm.
And Bobo would be, Freddie Blassie would, hey, Bobo,
Yeah.
it's time. You might want to blow a comeback. They're getting close. He said, "No, I'm gonna let them get your ass."
Not yet.
He's like, "No," and he said, then by that time, Bobo would blow his comeback, and people would go back to their seats, and he said that it was always a hell of a time in Washington D.C. and New York. So I almost wish I can go back in a time machine, man,
Yeah.
and see Bobo work in his prime because they said that the only person that remotely close to selling like Bobo was Shawn Michaels. And we know that Shawn Michaels in this modern era is the greatest seller in the history of wrestling. If Bobo was better than him, then damn, I would have loved to see
Yeah.
it in person.
And the one man that you brought up was someone that if you watched World Class Championship Wrestling out of Dallas, you saw Iceman King Parsons, really underrated. And
Really
I'd
underrated.
love to hear more like today because Iceman's still living. I'd love to hear more from Iceman. At this time, we can go back to the NWA with the St. Louis Wrestling Club with Sam Munchnick. Iceman, we had audio of him calling out Harley Race.
Then, brother, listen to me. Stop doing what you're doing. Put your pots and your pans down. Just get Iceman a few minutes of your time, and I know you can dig it. $5,000 race. You understand me? $5,000 for the Missouri title. Well, brother, you know I'm Missouri bound. I was born there. I bred it there. And when I die, I hope it be right there in Missouri. I'm coming, Harley Race. I'm coming. Have mercy.
Oh my God. Come on, Mark. Come on.
If that don't get you excited, then you are dead inside.
You know what? That was back in the day. I have money now. I want to go see that now. Can
Oh man, that
can I
was
see
so
Iceman
good.
Harley now? My God.
Whew. And now I'm gonna have to dig it up. Like I gotta watch that match. I'm gonna find it. Like I gotta see it.
Missouri title was on the line, yeah, for Harley Race, yeah, because he was Missouri champion, also NWA champion. But the idea that Iceman made you believe, that's audio. We didn't even see the video yet. Mark, in the audio, it makes you believe. I got goosebumps. I want to see the match now.
Yeah, man. And
Oh
and,
my
and
God.
that's the beauty of the promo is when it's done right. Like, and he put all the qualifiers in there. I know how much money it was for. $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
I know where it is. We got to go to Missouri to see it. And Harley, you know who it's against. The King Harley Race was no slouch.
It's not.
And he let everybody know that I want you, for lack of a better term, follow me. He said, I was born there. He said, I lived and bred there. And I'm gonna die there. Man, listen, they don't cut promos like that.
No.
Not today. Not with that much passion or that much intel. It's just, that's where I come from. That's who I grew up watching, and I feel more blessed every day of my life because of the wrestling I got to see as a kid.
And you have that legacy as well, Mark Henry. I don't know if you've been able to sit back and just dwell on your career in the ring. You don't understand. You don't understand. You don't understand how that made a community feel good to see you raise that World Heavyweight Championship. When you raised up, when you won that World Championship, first of all, from me and my friends, it was like, wait, did he just win the championship? It was a shock, and then it's a celebration. You saw the 3 count, you said, they're not going to screw him, are they? No, he actually has won the title, and that's when the celebration happened. You don't understand, Mark, what you mean to so many people, especially in the black community, to see you win that championship after all the years in the company, and then you raise the title the way you did, and the way athletes do, where you raised that title and you said, yeah, I should have had this a long time ago. And that look in your face, that determination, it can't be replicated. And that's legacy.
Well, I appreciate that, the kind words. Like I always perform for people watching. I wasn't performing for me. I was like, I did what it took to get there, and I busted my rear end to be a success. But I was better entertaining people, and my wife will tell you, I was better in front of everybody than I was in training. I always did better in competition.
Teddy, it's always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming on with us.
Hey, no problem, man. Thank you guys for having me. Y'all, I just come right out of the gym, so I'm trying to get home. Then I couldn't get home, so we just gonna do it from the old truck here, man. Let me get out here and show you.
All right.
Let all the fans know, man. This is that's you like that truck?
I do. What year is that, Teddy?
It's a 1964 C10.
Oh my God. That's a beautiful blue too, man.
Yeah, well, blue is my favorite color.
Yeah. I've been watching your career for a long time. Green is also your favorite color. You love green. You love green.
Yeah.
We all do.
So green represents the dollar.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Right.
Well, Teddy, as always, we appreciate the time. I want to find out from you, as we are here in Black History Month, how does it make you feel personally in 2025 about the way that wrestling is going for African Americans at this particular time?
Well, everything has certainly changed, and I think opportunities now for Afro-Americans are certainly a lot better than they was back in the day. You can see there, our troop is a trooper, been there forever, and still getting things done for him. You look at Kofi, Xavier, those guys, been there for a long time, still getting a good push. So things have changed, but like I said, some things ain't gonna never change. So we just have to leave that to God. So, but anyway, like I said, I think things have certainly changed and improved.
Teddy, I've heard you talk in the past, and I've interviewed you in the past as well, about your trials and tribulations getting into the business to where we are right now. Your run-ins over the years with Ric Flair and Ole Anderson. For our audience that does not know, just talk about your beginning in the business, being accepted, working on the ring crew, being a referee, working your way up.
Well, let's do this, okay? I've talked about that. I've been in this business almost 40-some years, and I've talked about, those problems I had with Flair and Ole. So I'm just trying to get away from that. You know what I mean? I talked about that earlier because I didn't really understand about the racism. And I've had a chance, I've gotten older and stuff, and I've had a chance to do a lot of research and learn a lot. So I understand now. I don't feel as bad now when somebody says the N-word to me now, because I understand now that racism is rooted. It ain't going to ever change. Okay, it's going to be there. So what you have to do is be a man and just, when people say evil stuff, just, move on about, go on about your way. Don't let that get to you, because I found out that back in the day, they would call me that word because they wanted to make me mad. So I would start a fight with somebody, and then that way they could get rid of me. And that way they could say I got rid of myself. They didn't have nothing to do with it. So you have to learn. This is a game, and you have to learn how to play this game. And I learned a lot from being right there close with Vince and working with him on a lot of my stuff that he wrote. And if I'll take you back to something, it'll bring you back. When Vince wrote the thing for me, the White Boy Challenge that I was doing with Rodney Mack, about the white man's keeping me down. And so, Vince McMahon knew what had happened to me down in WCW and NWA. Because one day he said to me, I come back. No, I tell you, the first night I walked out and did the promo with D'Lo Brown, we cut on Tommy Dreamer. I come back in and that man stopped me and he said, I can't believe I've had you right here under my nose all this time. All right. There was another statement that he made to me that let me knew that, he understood. He said to me, he said, Teddy Long, they wasted you down south. So when Vince wrote the White Boy Challenge, that was part of what had happened to me. And that's why I could pull it off so good, because that really, that was part of my deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just thankful that Vince took a liking to me. Undertaker had a lot to do with it. Vince wrote the stuff that me and Taker did when he kidnapped me in the coffin and all that. So I was able to be right in there with Taker and Vince Vince asked for my input. What are you going to say? You're going to get involved in this? And so, stuff like that, that makes you feel like you're appreciated and, you're wanted. So Vince always made me feel like that. So I owe everything to Vince McMahon.
Mark, we're talking to a pioneer and Teddy Long, who's seen it all. It's so great to have him on the special.
Listen, man, Teddy and I go way, way back. And it was funny that he mentioned the White Boy Challenge. Like, for me and Rodney Mack to be involved with Teddy doing the White Boy Challenge, like that was a really, really fun time in my career. I learned a lot. I was still fresh off coming back from Canada, and it was like introduction to the fire, and we hit the ground and we ran. There was no walking. Like, that was one of the biggest things on the show.
And it worked because people could relate. And the other thing too, if you remember this, I was in Memphis, Tennessee, and Vince wrote this, and I cut the promo on Jerry Lawler. Jerry's the big guy there, the king of Memphis. And so Vince wrote this, and I said to him, yeah, you may be a king to the people in Memphis, but to me, Jerry Lawler, you just another cracker with a crown.
That's right.
And that's on YouTube. That's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Pull it up.
Teddy said it was Vince's words, not mine.
Right.
Well, I think Vince has put those words into my head.
But I just think that's just great to see, though. I love those. I love what you were doing there, because compared the stuff that you did in WCW, compared to WWE, where you're the commissioner, you'll be able to have the White Boy Challenge. That'd be fulfilling for you from where you started to where you were. That'd be fulfilling for you.
Right. And then, I'm so glad that Mark's here with us, man. I had the opportunity to work with Mark, through my career. What a great guy. Always had a great attitude and good to work with and stuff. So, I'm just happy to, that I had the chance to be with Mark. And I never will forget, I almost cried one time. Mark, we was getting ready to go to WrestleMania, and I think Mark had the match with Chris Benoit, God rest his soul. And I believe Mark blew his shoulder out. I mean, right at the verge of going into WrestleMania, and Mark was in tears. He had me, because, that's a big moment, you're looking forward to. So, I always will remember that. And so I just want to let Mark know, thank you so much, man, for letting me work with you, man. Thank you for just being a part of my career. Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Man, I had a great time, Teddy, and I was learning a lot. As much as you enjoy working with me, I enjoy working with you. Just learning the history of who you were as a man and what your plight was from being a radio DJ to coming into the wrestling business. The world has come full circle, Teddy.
Yes.
Like
yes,
you started off a DJ and got into wrestling, and I started off in wrestling, and now I'm a DJ.
Hey man, but we're still alive and we're still doing stuff. Thank God.
Yeah, man, I love it. And Teddy, you used to tell me stuff about the way things used to be, and I always thought, like, man, I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure that never happens again. And you always said, man, I told you the story what Ernie Ladd said to me, and you said, man, I'm glad he said that to you, because I was around when there were African American wrestlers that wouldn't show up, or they would show up impaired or they got in trouble or whatever it was, and you said that, I'm gonna hold you to it, and you always told me that, like, man, if you ever start messing up, I'm gonna tell you now. And
Yeah.
you never had to tell me to straighten up because I always, I don't drink or smoke or do drugs. I fly right, and
Right.
my ego might have got in the way a couple of times,
Hmm.
but outside of that, like, you helped me stay even in the right line, and I have to thank you for that.
Yeah, well, the Mark, if you can remember, a lot of people, there wasn't too many people could come up and talk to you when you were mad. I was one of them guys that could come up and talk to you. Because remember that night when Vince ribbed you, I was the only guy that could talk to you that night when he sent you down to the ring and didn't send no opponent. And when you figured it out, you were so mad. But then we found out, but that's what Vince wanted you to do. He wanted you to get angry and angry. And he did that so he could make you angry because that's what he was looking for. And after you understood that, you got it. But boy, were you angry that night. But I talked to
You know
you.
what? I it was a couple of times that happened, and um, like Owen Hart said, you might be the most entertaining person I ever seen mad. And I
Yeah.
wish Owen would have lived to see me in the Hall of Pain era because that's what he always wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the same thing with Eddie Guerrero. They was like,
Yes.
man, if you ever get angry and decide to just take it, it ain't nobody could do nothing about it.
Nobody.
And the people will love it. And
Yeah.
damn it, I hate I did it too late.
Well, no, you didn't. It's never too late. You done it.
Yeah. Well, I wanted them two guys that really wanted it. They wanted it more than I did at the
Hey,
time.
they looking down on you, player. They know. They see. They
Yeah.
looking down on you. Believe me.
Yeah.
Mark, you told me about your relationship with Ernie Ladd, and that you said that Ernie said it's on you, and you were surprised. You saying, "Well, it's on me. I'm a youngin." He told you, "Hey, let me tell you something, Mark Henry, come over here. Let me get you under the learning tree." And he would talk to you, right? So, what was
He
that
did.
experience like? Just pointing it to you, said, "You're the guy. You have to lead it now."
Well, I understood what he was saying, but it took me about two or three times talking to him to understand what he was saying. The first time was kind of abrupt because he didn't introduce himself, or he didn't feel like he had to. I'm Big Cat Ernie Ladd. You know who the hell I am,
Right.
and I knew who he was, so he really didn't have to. But that was basically walking down the hallway, and he's like, "Hey, Henry, come here. Um, you know these people plan on doing something real big with you." He said, "Don't mess it up for everybody after you that look like you."
Yeah.
And I appreciate him being that black dude. I appreciate him being that man that saw potential in me and understood what was at stake because there had never been anybody like me. Ernie Ladd said, "So you you got paid up front?" I said, "Yeah, I got a guarantee." And he said, "No, no, no. Uh, Vince said that you the first guy he ever paid a signing bonus to." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, they gave me money up front." He said, "I worked for 30 years and nobody never paid me before." He said, "You different." He said, "You got to understand that if you mess this up, that nobody will never get it after you."
Right.
And I was like, damn, that's a lot on me right now, Ernie. You're scaring me. It
Yeah.
was a lot of pressure. And he was like, wow. He said, "I never thought I'd live to see um, somebody in wrestling get guaranteed money like this." He said, "I don't even want to know how much, but he says, is it over this? Is it over that?" He asked me three times. He wanted to know exactly how much it was,
Mhm.
Of course
but I
he did.
wouldn't tell him. And when it got over 500 grand, he was like, brother, it took me 15 years to make $500,000. It took me 15 years. And he just kept rubbing his head like this. And I felt a responsibility to the black people in pro wrestling to not mess it up.
Yeah.
And
And,
in fact, I wanted to enhance it. When I came in, there were 3 black people in wrestling at WWE. 3. And when I scouted, I always made sure that I scouted African American talent, and people of color. I When they started the developmental program, I was the first one, and then the second one came in was The Rock. So it was 2 black dudes in the developmental system. There was no such thing as a developmental system because we were still working territories at the time. We worked in Memphis, and then we worked in California. Then we worked for Alpha and Sika, and then we went back to Memphis, and then we both got called up. And then they started Ohio Valley, and I went to Ohio Valley for a year and a half. And while I was there, there was a guy named Charles. He was the only other black dude there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I asked Danny Davis. I was like, man, why is there not that many black wrestlers? And Jimmy Cornette was the one that said, there will be. He said that, there will be. There's a bunch of guys that we talked to that they're thinking about wrestling, and that was Shelton Benjamin was one of them. Robbie Dix was one of them. And there was another guy that he didn't pan out. He was one of them worthless dudes that Ernie was talking about. We wanted to get rid of him. He was like, yo, man, you're a legit black eye on the game. Like, we don't want you around.
right.
So it was a conscious effort, man. Everywhere I went, I tried to make sure that everybody felt at home, that no, this moment ain't too big for you. Like, drop your pride. We all got to suck it up. This business is tough, and I encourage people. And now I looked up and there was 30 African American wrestlers in the developmental system last I checked. And when Bianca Belair was still in NXT, they all had like there was like a dinner that they all went to, that they all got together and went to this dinner. And they started talking about how they got into wrestling. And it was like the 6 degrees of separation with Mark Henry, like at least 9 or 10 of the, 14 to 15 people that was at the table, they all were like, yeah, Mark Henry got me in. He told me to call this number, and he called this person, and that person called me back and, told me to be there. And he bought me a plane ticket. And a lot of times when Vince told me to just get him there, I did that out of my money. They didn't pay me back. And there was a couple of times I did get paid back, but for the most part, I probably sent 7 or 8 wrestlers to Florida, to FCW, and to Orlando. So, like, I did my part, and I put skin in the game, and not just the color of my skin, but the green to help this business.
Teddy, I know that, again, you've done so much for the wrestling business. Have you had time to think about your legacy of where you started and how you were all over the TV in WCW, man? When you were doing refereeing, you were doing color. and you were a manager of Doom, and you did so much, and then go to WWE. Have you just thought about how busy you were, how productive you were, and what you
And
meant?
break the ring,
Yeah,
break the ring down and put the ring up.
yeah. Have you thought about what you brought to the table, the skin that you've had in the game?
I think about that all the time. And what makes me think about that, and I ain't going to call no name, but what really makes me think about that is I have always, ever since day one in this business, I have done my job. Number two, Vince McMahon would have, this Mark Henry can tell you, Vince McMahon is strictly business. Vince McMahon would have never put me in charge of his show for 9 years if I had not been doing my job. And I said that to say this, and for somebody to hate me for doing my job, I don't understand it. So in this business, you can't even do your job and do right. You know what I'm saying? So that's
Right.
what I'm saying. That's what I think about. Vince didn't bother me. So what's the problem? So like I said, it don't bore me no more. Racism is rooted. It ain't going away. So I'm just gonna let God, guide me in the right direction. And
Amen. Teddy.
and Mark was saying something about uh uh somebody came to him and talked to him and told him don't mess this up. Well, the same thing happened to me. Gerald Briscoe pulled me to the side and he said to me, he said, Teddy Long, he said, the old man loves you. Don't fuck this up. Those were his exact words. And when I went in the Hall of Fame, I went and found Jerry and I said, hey, I didn't fuck this up.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. What a wonderful thing. And you know what, man? I gotta give a lot of credit to Gerald Briscoe. We call him Dad because he used to take care of us young wrestlers when we came in.
Right.
But a lot of people don't know that Gerald Briscoe and Thunderbolt Patterson used to ride together. They were like brothers, and they still are. When I go to the cauliflower and to the Luthers Hall of Fames, like they're always together, like two peas in a pod.
And
And just to sit around and hear them talk about the stories of the past and how they both were judged, Gerald being an Indian and Thunderbolt Patterson being a African American, they they changed the perception of people of color in wrestling. And Teddy, I know you know Thunderbolt as much as I did. Thunderbolt got the bad rap and never got to be the super wrestler because he whooped people's ass. He didn't take no shit from nobody.
yeah.
And that was one of his fatal flaws, though, is the fact that he couldn't be a politician.
Well, here's
And
what happened to Thunderbolt. If you can remember back, Mark, Thunderbolt tried to buck the system. Okay, him and Big Jim Wilson, I believe that was the guy's name. I'm not sure. I could be wrong, but him and Jim Wilson tried to start their own stuff. You can't do back in the day. That was really the worst thing you could ever do. So that's how Thunderbolt got the bad rap, is because him and Jim Wilson tried to start their own company.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the fact that he beat people up.
Yes.
Yeah,
You
Yes.
you
yeah,
can say the N word one time to Thunderbolt and you got punched in the face.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter if you was the champion or you was some entry level guy putting the ring up. Like Thunderbolt was the nicest guy in the world from the stories I hear, but he had zero tolerance for racism. And it just, he was in a time where racism was so prevalent that he was just, with his genetic makeup, he was just not he just couldn't do it.
yeah.
And he was really good. Go back and look at Thunderbolt Patterson tapes, and he could wrestle today.
Mhm.
That's how leaps and bounds great he was.
Yeah.
He was so good. And I learned so much about patience in the ring from him. Like he was so patient with what he did and very deliberate. He didn't handle you like you was a loaf of bread and you was trying not to you was trying not to dent the bread. Man, he put hands on you Oh my God, he was one of the best, man.
But that's what it was back in the day. You had to be for real back in the day. You know what I mean? If you're gonna draw money, you know what I mean? So when you stepped into the ring back in the day, either you're gonna be ready or you're gonna find out exactly how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teddy, we're glad you spent some time with us here on our Legacy special. We love that you were on and give your experience, and we hope to talk to you again. Thank you so much.
I thank you guys for having me, man. What an honor it is to be on the show, and especially there with Mark and everything. Mark, I got my passport now, so I'm ready for all Caribbean.
I'm gonna book you. Consider yourself booked. And you know what? Since we in the booking mood, I want Jonathan to come down and do some color commentary and some play-by-play with Gerald Bonner.
Okay.
Jonathan, we gotta sit the schedule out in front of you and see what's good dates for you.
I'm hearing some great things, man. I cannot wait.
I'm doing for African Americans in wrestling that should have been done a long time ago.
Exactly.
And I want after we're all gone from here, people to still be talking about us.
Yeah.
And that's my sole objective, man. I tell everybody I want my statue.
Exactly.
Teddy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Teddy, for coming on with us.
Man, and y'all enjoy the rest of your day, and may God bless you.
God bless you, man.
Thank you, guys.
WWE Hall of Famer Teddy Long with us here on Legacy. Former WWE Women's Champion and one of the greatest NWA Women's Champions of all time, Mark, we are here and a pleasure to talk to Jazz. She joins us right here on Busted Open. Jazz, it is our pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us.
Man, thanks for having me. You know, it's always a pleasure to be in conversation with you guys.
Jazz, me and you had a conversation, I guess it was a year ago now, and I was saying how you are the equivalent of Eric Metcalf, a former football player in the NFL that played for the Cleveland Browns. He was ahead of his time. He was too early.
Yeah.
He was about 25 years too early. If Eric Metcalf was to play football today, he would be the number one back receiver in the NFL. And
Yes,
I feel
sir.
the same way about you as a female wrestler. Now, the women have free reign to wrestle the way that you should wrestle.
Yeah.
And there was nobody better than you were in your era, and you would translate even better today. You can't say that, it's really a wrong time, but
Yeah.
damn,
Yeah. You know what my
kinda
saying
feel
is? I always said I was ahead of my time, but I was in the right place at the right time.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
And the world needed to see somebody that not just an African American woman that can wrestle men and do it better than they could, but to see a black woman in a time where there was a lot of discrimination, not just from being African American, but being a woman.
Just being a woman. Yeah.
And I used to ride in the car a lot of times with Moolah and Mae Young because they, those late drives, they couldn't make those late drives. So
Yeah.
I would drive them. And Mae used to talk about how she traveled with the African American women because they all had to travel together because they didn't treat them like black women. They just treated them like women.
Yeah, they were all just women then, right?
Like everybody got treated the same. So I asked her what was one of the things that she wished that she could have done then that she does now. And she said, I just like the fact that I can go in the locker room.
Wow.
And I was like, damn, it was that it was so bad for women before you that they didn't even want them in the building. And the evolution is there's something I want to ask you the same thing. Is there something that you wish could have been then when you were wrestling that you see and enjoy now in wrestling?
Well, most definitely the diversity, you know, and just the girls now, they're giving time, they're giving opportunities. You know what I mean? When you talk about the women now main eventing Mania or Raw or any pay-per-view, that was unheard of. Like majority of the time, we would have at least no more than a 7-8 minute match planned, you know, but by the time it got to our segment, it was always cut down to 4 or 5 minutes, sometimes 3 minutes. And you talking about still trying to get yourself over, tell the story of the match, get your opponent over within 3 or 4 minutes, you know. But I feel like I did that,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, I made it happen. So, but yeah, just like you said, the freedom range of just being able to go out there and just wrestle and be your own unique self, you know, and no one telling you you're wrestling too much like the men and this and that, and just letting you be an athlete, just letting you be a professional wrestler.
Jazz, there's a couple of women that touched $1 million in salary.
Bro,
Like,
I don't even. Only time I touched $1 million was when I worked at the casino and I had to count it.
but
So,
it's got
yeah,
they making that money because of you.
yeah.
They
Well,
making
you
that
know
money
what?
because
God
of,
bless them.
you know, like
Mhm.
you work, like your matches hold up to this day, like the things that you did to be an African American in our industry and a woman to be able to have the respect of your peers. Me and the Undertaker were talking one time, and he was like, "Man, can you imagine if Jazz was wrestling today?" And I said, "Bro, don't even say that to me."
Oh
And
wow,
it's like for your name to come up in a conversation that I didn't bring the name up and the
that's
Undertaker
great.
brought it up,
That's yeah.
that
I'm
shows
blown
you,
away right there. Look, look.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I didn't
respect.
even know. I never knew he even watched my matches.
Hey, him
Yeah,
and Booker, they always were at the monitor.
yeah. That just speaks to your legacy, Jazz, of who you are.
Yeah.
So,
Man,
you know, it's one thing for a wrestler to want TV time and opportunity, but I would say that for you in particular, it was about the marketing
yes,
of you and
yeah,
women, especially in that era. How difficult was
yeah.
that for you to go through, knowing that you deserve to have at least a
Well,
poster or marketing?
you know what's really strange about the situation? Like I didn't know I was being treated differently. I didn't know like I wasn't being treated equally because that's just how I was then, you know. So you accepted it and you just made the best out of it. You come to work, you're happy to be there and you do your job and like it is what it is, you know. So when you don't know, you don't know.
Is there something that you see now that you think retroactively should be installed for the greats like you and Gail Kim and Awesome Kong and all of the women that are trailblazers?
You know, just like you said, for Undertaker to bring my name up, just to have the acknowledge, you know, and not saying, you know, and I feel like, you know, some of us we've earned that, you know. You hate to use the term deserve it, you know, but I feel like, you know, we've earned our flowers, you know.
Right.
So yeah, so it's okay to acknowledge that, you know what I mean? And sometimes that's all a person ever wants, you know, just acknowledgement.
Jazz, who are some of your biggest influences when you started getting into the business?
Well, of course, Jacqueline, you know, she was Miss Texas. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. So seeing that little woman on TV every Saturday morning, you know, beating up on everybody, you know, and then I'm gonna tell you a crazy little story. When I first tried to break in, Reggie B. Fine went over there and told Jerry Lawler that I could wrestle. Had never been in the ring, ain't seen the ring, ain't done nothing.
Uh-huh.
And he told that man I could wrestle. So Jerry Lawler put me out there with Jackie. But it was like a good 15-second match. But you know, when I was done, he was like, "You did good, not bad." So
Reggie
So,
be fine.
Reggie be
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you
Is
know, you
cold.
know. If you know, you know, Mark,
Yeah.
right?
Hey,
Reggie
you
be
gotta know. Hey, so Reggie, I didn't know Reggie had heat when I was in Memphis. You know, I was new to Memphis.
when you don't know, you don't know.
When you don't know, you don't know.
You
And
don't know.
Reggie was like, "Hey, man, I'm Reggie be fine." And I was like, "Oh shoot," I recognized him. And
Yeah.
he was like, "Hey, can I come in with you? I want to say hi to the boys." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, man, come on." Man, I got Reggie B. Fine. He got the most heat of any wrestler in the history of wrestlers.
Yeah,
And
why
he
would
come
you
in and
say
he
no?
was,
This
"What the
Reggie be
hell you
fine.
doing here?"
Memphis finest, like how you go, nah, bro, you can't come in like you Reggie be fine.
I
Yeah,
was like,
come on
"Man, you
in.
set me up, man. Don't
Yep,
do that."
that's Reggie for you.
That's Reggie.
Yeah.
Jazz, you mentioned about Miss Jackie. I saw
Yes.
matches with her
Yes.
um, in promo battles with Jerry Lawler, and she was standing up toe to toe with Jerry
Yeah,
right there at that
absolutely.
desk in Memphis. So as you
Absolutely.
learn from her, it's one thing about wrestling, but what about the promo ability to be able to talk on the mic? What was that like for you early?
Well, I ain't gonna lie to you. Putting that camera in front of someone's face is pretty intimidating. So I never really mastered that, but as the years went on, I got accustomed to it. But yeah, just watching Jackie, in Memphis, growing up, and then she went to WCW, and then she was out there with Kevin Sullivan. I mean, Jackie done worked with some of the greatest, that
Yeah.
ever laced a pair of boots. So like I always give my kudos and my flowers to Jacqueline, because again, if it wasn't for her, that there wouldn't be a jazz, especially in my era. So just watching Jackie, just transfer from Memphis wrestling over there on Saturday mornings and Monday night, and then you see her at WCW, and then when she get to WWF, like yeah, she's most definitely the trailblazer in my time for
And
sure.
you want to hear something hilarious? This past weekend I was in Manchester,
Yeah,
England.
well, all the
With her.
WCW people, I saw those clips. Yes.
And she looks exactly the same.
Ain't age, because all she does is drink coffee. So she,
Oh, oh my, she still drink coffee. She
I
listen.
know. I know.
She sent the runners to Starbucks, and
Yeah.
it was like 20 minutes away. She said, "I
Yeah.
don't care. I need to get my coffee."
Yes,
And I
she
wanted them to
drinks her
get some for
coffee.
me. I told my wife, I was like, I wanted to get some Nando's, and they was like, "Man, that's like 30 minutes away, Mark." But they didn't Jazz when she
Yeah.
listen when Jackie said she wanted her coffee, they went and got her coffee.
When they got her coffee, as they should.
Yeah.
As they should.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Jazz,
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, she looks the exact same, bruh.
Haven't
Absolutely.
changed a bit.
No, not at all. They saying black don't crack, so
no.
I
Man,
guess
she's the poster child.
yeah, she's the poster child for that. Yes, yes. No
Jazz,
stress in the world.
Jazz, as you work with young women today in the business, what
Yes.
advice do you give them? Because you've been at this for a long time. When they first break in, as they go through the business, what are you telling them?
Most definitely walk in, and demand respect. Don't carry yourself like a woman, first off. Don't get caught up in none of the drama. Be real to yourself. Always be the person that you can look in the mirror and go to sleep at night with ease. Not hating or feeling bad about something you did, that just touching the soul in the wrong way. And always work. The main thing for me is continue training. No matter where you at, how far you go, continue to work on your craft. That's the thing that really kills me today. These youngsters, they'll work a little bit, start having some matches, and then they think they got it. It's like you got to work hard to get there. And once you're there, you got to work even harder to stay there. Then you're trying to get to the top. You got to work extra hard to get to the top. And then once you're to the top, oh my God, that's when the work really comes in.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, just continue to work on your craft. Stay hungry. Stay hungry for the game. Stay hungry for the knowledge. You know, I remember we used to get to the building early as heck and always put my workout clothes on, got in the ring every show, every house show, every TV show. I was in that ring working on something.
And that was a common thing for that era when I first came in and y'all were already there, kind
Yeah.
of paving the way for me. Like y'all set that example, and I thank God for y'all because like it made me want to work on myself, and
Yeah,
because
you
I
know,
saw
and
people that were already stars in my eyes still working on stuff.
yeah. And that's what they for these youngsters, they don't get that, you know. But that's the main thing I tell them, like, stay true to who you are. Remember that child that your parents raised, you know, and continue to work on your craft. Continue to want to be great, you know. Don't get complacent.
Yeah.
Jazz, lastly, and we appreciate your time, is there one African American wrestler, women, that you really enjoy watching in 2025?
All of them, man. You know, Bianca, Naomi, Jade. Oh my God. Then there's some girls from the NXT over there. I was like,
Hmm.
oh Lord, oh man, just to be able to go over there and just spit some game to them, you know.
Have you seen Willow work?
I have, yeah, I'm a fan
Man,
of
she good.
Willow's. Yes, yes, she
She
got
is
something
really
you can't
good.
teach. She has
Yeah,
something you can't teach,
she got a
you know.
charisma that
Yes,
you just
yep.
don't see it in
That's what
wrestling,
I'm
men or
saying. Yeah,
women.
you can't teach that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jazz, as always, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on our special and giving
Thank
your
you.
perspective.
Thank you,
Thank you,
brother.
Jazz.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for your time, man. Appreciate
Tell
you.
tell Rodney I send my love.
You sure will, bro. Sure will. And I'll be in touch with you, Mark, about when next year when these girls start back wrestling, so we can link up.
Okay.
All
Very
right.
good.
All right. Love you, bro.
Love you too.
All right.
The,
Bye.
the legendary Jazz with us here on Legacy. Please be joined by someone who loves the business as much as we do, Mark. Host of the No Contest podcast, movies, films. He is the great O'Shea Jackson. He joins us here on Busted Open. O'Shea, first of all, happy birthday, bro.
Thank you, man. I'm 34, man. It's all downhill from here. I'm on my last max contract. It's a wrap. So it's nice knowing y'all,
Man, I got shoes 34.
Yeah.
man.
Underwear the same. Long underwear because I'm in Chicago, so it's about 34 years old. So,
Oh man, it's good to have you on, O'Shea. We met a long, long time ago, and you were telling me how big of a fan you are, and I kept seeing you involved in the pro wrestling world. Kind of the you even used to dive into the underbelly, like messing with people on social media and so
Yeah.
forth. And I finally got to the point where I said, man, let me reach out to this cat, and if he gonna do it, I want him to do it on Busted Open with us. And you came on and it's been, you talk about a snowball downhill. You've been doing very well ever since. What is it about pro wrestling that drew you to it?
Man, when you're a kid, like, it's the best soap opera on TV, man. It's just so, when you get superstars that can cause you to fully immerse, it's the only thing on your mind. What's going to happen next? And yeah, I fell in love with it after my older brother Gerald showed me then the WWF. He showed me originally through a video game, and then he was like, we can watch these dudes for real. And then, we started watching. And as I got older, I started looking at WCW, and I remember telling him, like, man, this dude, Scott Hall, looks a lot like Razor Ramon. And he's like, yeah, it is
Because he
Razor
is.
Ramon. Yeah, he moved over. And then that's when I put together that, like, oh wow, like these two companies, like people are going back and forth, this, that, and the third. And, in my older adult age, what I learned to appreciate about it is, in my profession, I get cuts, I get redos. It's not gonna go in the movie until it's perfect. They do what I do, it might break a leg or like tear something, or they got to be away from their family with no off season. It's Broadway with violence. I mean, how are you not entertained?
So tell us about, because we're doing this special on Black History Month, about the prominence of black wrestlers in today's landscape. How's that stand for you when you watch?
I definitely, people are always going to want more. So I'm not, people are going to always want, no matter what it is, they're always going to want more. And it is something that speaks to, being a black kid and seeing yourself win a title, or seeing yourself, rocking the crowd, because it's just something psychological where you tell yourself, like, I see that it's possible. I could do it, And I love the up and coming wrestlers right now. Obviously, Mark, you gave us one of our greatest of all time in Bianca Belair. But I look at like NXT, like fans know NXT is like the blackest show on television right now. Like if the CW could just go back to UPN for one night, it would be amazing.
That's so true.
That is
So true. It'd be Martin and then NXT, right? It's like,
like, bro, it's like, man, wrong era, but like NXT, like right there would have been perfect, dude.
Is there one particular thing in wrestling that stands out to you more than any other that a wrestler of color did that made you say, "Damn it, man! Like I gotta go in person." Like you had to go see it for yourself.
Oh man, just The Rock was my hero. The Rock was my hero for a long time, and that dude was like the best thing I had ever seen. I learned so much from The Rock, the character. He taught me to never let them leave you speechless. Always have something to say. Always got to have a rebuttal. Never let them catch you, with your pants down. And just his what's the word for it? The braggadocio, like
Confidence,
just the bravado.
the
Yeah. Just he had it, and he wouldn't let anybody take it away from him. And walk around talking in the third person sometimes just because of fandom. And that right there, that dude, I would do everything in my power to get my parents to take me to Staples Center just so I could, watch wrestling. And I was lucky enough, some people have heard the story. I was lucky enough when I was 12 years old. I was at school and news spread like wildfire of my dad was at the school. So immediately I'm like, oh no, like what did I do? And I'm trying to remember, Mark, I'm trying real hard to remember what I did because I know I'm in trouble. Ain't no way. Like grandma comes and picks you up from school, not dad. And he in the nice car too. So I'm like, all right, something's up. So I get in the car and we drive all the way down to Venice. He still won't tell me what's happening. We sit at a restaurant at a table that's way too big for two people. And The Rock walks in, like my hero. I'm 12 years old. You got to give me like a day in advance that I'm doing this, man. Because that's like the first and only time in my life, Mark, where I can't talk. I can't get words to come out of my body. Like, and I'm just in shock. And my dad, like after an hour meeting that they had, was like, man, whose ass do you want him to kick? Say something. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. Yeah.
I got nothing.
He signed my dirty PE shirt because I just got out of school. And we took a picture and I took his change. I took his quarter that he got from the waitress. And like that dude is he's really been an inspiration for me. I've had the chance to run into him, now that I'm older, but we gotta work together or something, dude.
O'Shea, what lesson can you impart for young brothers and sisters who want to be able to make their mark on the industry from music and a movie standpoint? It's one thing to be in the ring, but I don't think we've had enough crossover. So how is that possible moving forward?
Well, Went to the University of Southern California for screenwriting. I still write to this day. And, just the same way with any job out there, whether it's corporate America, wrestling, or acting, you have to play the game until you can make your own rules. So, you got to do things to, be a good soldier until you get to the point where you're undeniable, and then you can start to be creative and have fun. And I definitely got a bunch of friends from the square circle that I would love to do some films with. So I'm gonna do my part. I just need, I need that little rub from WWE, and we can all be happy. But yeah, just like I said, it's even when you might not like something the boss is telling you, or this, that, and the third, your work ethic, your ability to not necessarily make waves will give you all the ammunition you need for when it's time for you to make some noise.
Well, I tell you what, man, I want to thank you, man, because you've showed a lot of respect and admiration for the industry that I love. And I always like to see people from the outside, from entertainment, from music, from the arts, appreciate what we do and give credence to it. And you've done that in so many different forms that I got to give you your props, man. Continue to keep following and enjoying. I know at some point you're gonna come up with an idea for a wrestling movie. I'm just saying, keep me and Jonathan in mind, man. We could get on the microphone and be commentators or something.
Yes.
Man, listen, Mark, you saved me from the trenches of Twitter, man. If it wasn't for you pulling me up out of there, I wouldn't have the No Contest Wrestling podcast. When Rich Eisen was talking to me about the deal, I called you same day to thank you, man. I am forever in gratitude to you, man. Shout out to all the Black wrestlers that are currently not just in WWE, but in promotions all over. We've had many greats. We've had many unappreciated. Keep your head down, and you got your support from your people.
Yeah.
O'Shea, tell us about Den of Thieves too. I'm very interested in this. That's the movie that's available now. Pay-per-view, Amazon, YouTube, coming to Netflix on March 20th. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a success story myself.
And you're over, brother. You're over.
Yeah,
Man, say you're over.
You're over.
Yeah.
Tell me you're over.
Man. I'm over. There's no two ways about it. They love them some Shay, and I love them back for that. But yeah, Den of Thieves 2, Pantera. I have fun making that film because let's face it, it's fun to look cool. And I look real cool in that movie. I like it better than the first one because the first one I get beat up for 2 hours. Not really feeling that. I'm the hero, all right? I don't need this abuse. And yeah, it's been an amazing time.
Paying your dues.
Yeah, exactly. I had to earn my stripes, but now I played the game. Now it's time to make some rules. Yeah. And it's been an amazing ride. This is my first #1. I don't know if Godzilla hit #1 because we was going up against the Avengers, but this is my first #1 since Straight Outta Compton. We was #1 2 weeks in a row. Straight Outta Compton got up to 3 weeks, but I'm so grateful to everybody. It was at such a weird time too because the fires were happening in LA, and people still went to go out and see it. So I'm extremely appreciative, and we're about to gear up for a third one. And so, when I do this third movie, Mark, and I get my R&B body, bro, I'm gonna hit up Booker, and I'm getting in that ring, man.
His R&B body, ooh yeah,
yeah, ooh yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you're gonna get in the ring, I just want to let you know, we got this thing called All Caribbean Wrestling. I don't know if you ever been down in the Caribbean. But
I love the Caribbean, Mark.
we accepting all comers. We need some A-list celebrities to come in and show the people that we exist.
All right, for sure, man. Bro. I told you, Mark. I'm here on my birthday. Anything you need, bro. Anything you need, man.
Done deal. The invitation is coming.
All right.
O'Shea, as always, we appreciate your time on Busted Open. Don't forget Den of Thieves 2, available now on pay-per-view, Amazon, and YouTube, coming to Netflix on March 20th. And don't forget the No Contest podcast. We appreciate your time today.
Absolutely, man. Man, thank you guys for having me. Thank you for even thinking of me. Go Lakers. And Mark, tell that
Go Lakers.
Tell that Oklahoma Sooner I said what's up, bro.
You know what? I will tell Jacob you said what's up. Hey, follow him. You can't even say his name, just that Oklahoma dude.
Yeah, because I just want to get at you, bro.
Hey, if you follow him and said, "Hey, Jacob, I like you, but I'm not gonna reference you because you wear that crimson and cream," you know, he will lose his mind.
Yeah, man, I still can't get over that, man. I know that got to sting a little bit.
It stings a little. But like your dad, you know, he gonna support you to the end. So I gotta support him. He said, "Dad, I hope you was playing when you said that, you know, you wasn't gonna wear Oklahoma shirt to the game." And I was like, "Oh man, I'm sure I'm gonna have to wear one. My wife gonna have one all laid out for me and everything." I said, "But I'm gonna wear a UT shirt underneath it."
Yeah, man, you're gonna be in the stands like this. Yeah. My mother, just to shout her out, because she watched our interview that we did for No Contest, and she said she could tell you got a good soul, man. I said, "You're absolutely right, Mom."
Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah.
I said thank you for recognizing.
Absolutely, man.
O'Shea, thanks so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
All right, I'm about to go play PlayStation. Y'all have a good day.
All right, man. Happy birthday.
Thank you, man.
O'Shea Jackson with us on Legacy.